My Substack is focused in on anger, mainly because anger has been one of the feelings that I've noticed has been popping up for a lot of people that I've been talking to lately. And I think the hardest part is that, especially for us women, is that anger. Um, we've always been taught that anger, especially from women, is wrong. A lot of people have been taught to kind of stuff their anger down and to focus on like happy thoughts and happy things. And I wanted to talk about that because you know, people say when angry people are toxic, and I can agree to that to a point. I think that somebody who's constantly angry is a toxic person, but anger in and of itself is not a toxic trait. It is a valid emotion. As with all emotions, the emotion itself may be valid, but it's what we do with it that matters. But today I want to talk about positivity and how toxic positivity undermines growth. Um, Because honestly, for us, I think that's a really big monster to tackle at times. Um, and it's one of the reasons that I wrote my Friendly Little Monster book, because I feel like we have a lot of these kind of emotional monsters that we face. And so I wrote a children's book, but it's a book for all ages um, that personifies those feelings as monsters. And toxic positivity is definitely one of those. And so I want to read a blog. So this blog was from March 25th. So this is one of my earlier blogs from last year. Um, and it's titled The Monster in the Mirror: How Toxic Positivity Undermines Growth. And here's the thing is we all know the voice. Just think happy thoughts, good vibes only. Everything happens for a reason. And honestly, some of us may have it, have a picture with those quotes on our wall. That's how pervasive they are. And so these words might sound kind, they might even feel uplifting, but beneath the surface, there is something sinister growing, a monster that we don't see until it's already under our bed, in our mirror, or hiding on our back like a shadow that we can't shake. And who is that monster? It is toxic positivity. And I want to make no mistake, it's smiling. Right? It's got a smile on its face, but it is not a kind smile. Um, the toxic positivity monster doesn't arrive as a threat. It shows up wearing a sun hat and carrying affirmation cards. It tells you to be grateful, even when your world is falling apart, and it whispers to stay strong when all you want to do is crumble. It insists everything is fine, even when you're drowning inside. And because you've been taught to be polite and to be pleasant, optimistic, and palatable, you believe it. You invite the monster in. You tidy up your pain. You shove fear in the closet. You tuck anger under the bed. You smile even when your chest feels hollow. You push forward with positivity because the alternative, pausing and feeling, is too raw, too vulnerable, and too negative. But here's the catch. The monster feeds on suppression. It gorges on repressed grief and muffled rage and abandoned dreams and unspoken truths. It grows stronger every time you dismiss your real emotions with a forced smile or a hollow affirmation. And eventually, the monster doesn't just lurk, it's in the driver's seat. There's a slow death of authenticity, because this is where the monster becomes most dangerous. Toxic positivity may sound sweet, but it's corrosive to your authenticity. It demands that you wear a mask, and the longer you wear it, the more disconnected you become from your truth. And this disconnection doesn't just stunt personal growth, it derails it completely. Because when you refuse to face what's real, you can't build anything real. The voice that says everything's fine, even when it's not, will eventually suffocate your goals, your transformation, and your sense of self. You cannot evolve while pretending that everything is already perfect. You cannot become whole while denying your cracks. And you certainly can't chase meaningful change while a monster is whispering, "Stay positive," every time your inner truth tries to speak. So, what now? How do we tame the monster? First, we stop pretending. Second, we start listening to ourselves. And then we drag the monster out, but not to slay it, just to understand it. Toxic positivity isn't defeated with more light. It's honestly softened through shadow. And this is where we can do some shadow work on ourselves because it's the act of meeting the parts of ourselves that feel too hard, too painful, or too unacceptable to love. It's not about fixing yourself. It's just about seeing yourself and accepting yourself for everything that you are, including those moments when you are feeling less than happy. And so, one of the things that I work with my clients is feeling wheel, um, and really getting in touch with those emotions. And I will probably post a feeling wheel after. So the feeling wheel will help you to identify the emotions that come up. And why is that important? Well, because labeling our emotions is one of the most powerful tools we have for emotional regulation and self awareness. Because when we can give a name to what we're feeling, whether it's anger, frustration, grief, shame, joy, confusion, we activate the parts of the brain that help us process it rather than react. Um, so, emotions, they can feel overwhelming, especially when they show up in complex or conflicting ways, especially anger. Anger is often not just anger. Anger is often wrapped up in so many other layers. Anger is wrapped up in fear. Anger is wrapped up in shame. And anger can be also wrapped up in grief. Um, and so when we are, able to say something like, "I feel anxious," or "I feel unseen," can reduce the intensity of those emotions. And there is actually a study that was by Tabak in 2022. It was a neuroscience study that showed that naming an emotion engages the prefrontal cortex. It's that area of the brain right here, the part of the brain that's responsible for logic and decision making. And it quiets the amygdala. So the amygdala is our brain's emotional center. Additionally, it shifts us out of judgment and into observation. So when we don't name an emotion, we often act them out or we suppress them, right? Both of which are not good coping mechanisms. So labeling and being able to look at our emotions and name them and not be afraid of them, it turns that emotional experience into something that we can witness rather than something we're consumed by. It creates just enough distance to choose a more conscious response, a more logical response. And that in turn gives us power. Language is powerful. And, it's one of the reasons that I've started talking about language, first, because naming a feeling, it gives us the ability to work with it. I feel sad. Okay, so I feel sad is different from I am sad. The first implies a state that we're in, right? We're just feeling this. Whereas the second one, it makes it an identity. This is who I am. And so by labeling emotions, we shift from being the emotion. So we shift from I am this emotion to just holding that emotion. I'm feeling this right now. And that gives us room to move forward. And gives us room to learn from it and then to heal from it. It also helps us to get to the root of the problem. And so, one of the things in my area of expertise, which is Ayurveda, one of the first kind of approaches that we use is to get to the root cause and to remove the causative factors, remove the root cause. And why is that? Well, because, if we don't remove what's causing the problem, we can take all the pills and have the greatest diet and the greatest exercise routine, all of that. But in the end, it won't matter because what's causing the imbalance is still there. And so, um, oftentimes, anger is not actually, it's not the root of the problem. Sometimes what we think is anger is, again, it's actually something else. It's grief. It's fear. What we label as apathy, right, can be burnout. Um, so having being precise in labeling allows us to address the real issue rather than just this kind of surface level reaction. And it builds our emotional intelligence too. So the more nuanced our emotional vocabulary, the better we become at recognizing our inner landscape and the emotions of others. And that fosters deep empathy. It fosters communication and connection in all of our relationships. But above all, it also helps us with the relationship with ourselves. And so when we are able to label that, we create a map of our emotional world and we stop running from our feelings. And instead, we start walking alongside them. We become more curious, we become more compassionate, and we also become more courageous whenever it comes to stating how we feel. And so, facing the monster, right, doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you're brave. And when I say facing the monster, what I mean is by facing our emotions, feeling our emotions, recognizing that they are there. That's not a weakness. That's really that's strength and that's bravery because it means you're done living a half life under the illusion of perfection. It means you're reclaiming your power, piece by piece, and that power, that emotional power, is can be one of your greatest strengths. And here's the thing: is growth doesn't happen in the light alone. It can happen in the dark too. So even those like really uncomfortable emotions, those uncomfortable feelings, growth can happen there. So if you feel stuck, exhausted, or disconnected from your truth, consider this: you don't need more positivity. You just need more honesty. You need more wholeness, and above all, you need you. Every last piece of you, from your happiness to your anger, even if the parts have been hidden away. It's okay to bring them out in a safe place and get to know them. Because here's the thing: is when you listen to the monster inside, when you listen to the fear or the anger or the anxiety monster, what you'll find out is that it's not there to hurt you. More times than not, it's not there to hurt you. It just wants to be heard. And then the moment that you listen, the monster will become a mirror. Um, and it's not something to be feared. It's just something that we need to integrate within ourselves. Um, and so that's why this week I've moved from language and I'm focusing mainly on anger because one of the things that I've noticed is that is one of the monsters that so many people try to put away because they just see anger in itself as toxic and they try to keep this happy, positive mindset without realizing that positivity in and of itself can also become toxic. And it's because we're not allowing ourselves to feel what is a very normal, very healthy emotion. And so if you're struggling with anger, if you kind of always have that lump in your throat from the things that you want to say, if you kind of always feel like this heaviness, this blockage in your body because there are things that have built into resentment, have built into frustration. One of the things that I want to invite you to do is definitely follow along, because these are things that I will be addressing in my Substack and in my blog. Again, this blog was written back on March 25th of last year. But I also want you to check in with yourself. Find a safe space for yourself, your bedroom, your car, wherever you can feel safe and be able to feel yourself and feel where you are in those moments, because being able to connect with ourselves on that level can be such a powerful experience. And then just let it out. Just let it out. Let out a scream, go for a drive and listen to, the music that just helps you to get all that energy out. Um, you know, uh, do a little rage yoga. Whatever it is that you have to do, but get it out. Don't suppress it. And why is that? Well, we go in that on my Substack. We go into that in some of my blogs as well. But there's a science behind it, and the science is clear that when we repress those feelings, when we hold on to them, bury them, what we're just doing is we're just keeping our body in a state of fight or flight and a state of constant stress. And when we are leaving our bodies in a state of constant stress, um, we are telling ourselves that we're not safe. And when we don't feel safe, we're always going to be afraid. We're always going to be anxious. And then anger will inevitably rise up. So find a place where you feel safe and just get it out. And join me this week and in the weeks leading up into actually March 21st, I have what I'm calling the Scream and Cuddle workshop, but it's a total nervous system reset workshop where we're going to get some education on these topics like anger and toxic positivity and all of that. So we're going to have a little education. And then afterwards, we're going to have a guided screaming session. With screaming as well is most certainly welcome, but so is humming, crying, chanting, big exhales, whatever it is that you feel comfortable doing. I do have tickets for sale on my website. And a great thing is, a portion of the proceeds to that is actually going to a nonprofit. It is called the Harbor Project. They actually oversee two different things. They have the Cotton Branch Farm Refuge Project, and that mainly focuses on abused and neglected farm animals. So they rescue them, mainly pigs, but they rescue these abused and neglected farm animals and give them the absolute best life that you can imagine. The other side of the refuge project is the Safe Harbor Refuge Project, and this focuses on the human aspect. So what they are looking to do with this is to connect people who live in the Midlands of South Carolina, underrepresented communities, or communities that just typically can't afford, say, mental health services. They're working to connect people in the Midlands of South Carolina with affordable or even free mental health services. So you can come scream, get a snack, and then we go cuddle some pigs. If you're interested in that, again, my website, which is all linked on my main page, my profile page here, go check that out. Go get your tickets now. We have early bird. We do have an early bird special going on. And then after the first 15 tickets are sold, then they go up to normal price. So get them while you can. And come and get that frustration out in a safe and supportive environment. Come and get it out and then nurture your nervous system with some nice snacks and some big cuddles. But other than that, if you are not in South Carolina, the way you can show some support is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, all the buttons, click away. um, I really appreciate everybody who dropped in, and I will hopefully see you all next week.